Hey, good Tuesday morning. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and so we've got a Monday morning rewind holiday version today on Tuesday. Spent the day yesterday working in my yard. Not really working because it's relaxing for me. It gives me time to do some thinking and pretty monotonous work just mowing. So thought a couple thoughts back from high school, being a military brat, about Memorial Day and the intent. One was about a neighbor we had in our second tour of Germany. An Army sergeant named Ski. He had volunteered for a couple back-to-back tours in Vietnam as an infantryman. He was, one of the stories he tells was walking with being with a platoon who accompanied tanks, and a young lieutenant ordered them to cross this bridge, and Ski, in his years of experience, said, "Hey, that's not a wise move. It's going to be an ambush." And so the young lieutenant, of course, said, "No, go ahead, we're moving forward." And they did. They lost a tank and about a half a dozen men, and Ski went back and punched the young lieutenant out and got busted. The second was about a young Air Force lieutenant named Mike, who was in my dad's squadron. I'd gotten to know him through working at the base gym, plus he also was on the base football team, so we had another link there with football. But one day during a combat training mission, he got inverted in some clouds, and as they yelled at him or told him to pull out, he actually ended up pulling down and crashed. So that's why probably yesterday some of you might have taken a little bit of offense about why I'm so adamant about what the intent of Memorial Day was. Because those things, are etched in here and will never go away. Yesterday we covered a verse in Acts chapter 17. And I want to revisit that, and I'll try to be brief, but it can't happen. Paul is on the move. He's in Athens, and in verse 17 it says he went to the synagogue to reason with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles and talked to everyone daily who was in the public space. Paul talked to people who had similar interests with him. This holy huddle, as I call that, that. But he also talked to anyone else who was in that public space. He didn't just limit it to those that were like him. But we have a tendency to do that. And if we hang out with just people who are like us, we risk out on making new friendships, but we also risk not making disciples. Because after some point, you just run out of friends, your close huddle, who are going to become new believers and new followers of Christ. This morning, God gave me two reminders of that as I was doing some early reading with my coffee out on the porch. The first one is I have a guy friend that every Tuesday morning he sends out a devotion, a verse that's been speaking to him, and then a couple thoughts. Well, this morning's was 1 Peter chapter 3:8 that says, "Christ suffered once for our sins, the righteous for the unrighteous." And Scott challenged this group of men. He said, look, if Jesus could die for someone who wasn't like him, who didn't, then he's not asking us to do that. The Great Commission is not the Great Commandment to go die. It's to go make disciples. And he says, what's keeping us from going up and talking to people that we don't know and telling them about Jesus? If Jesus was willing to die for somebody who wasn't like him, what's keeping us from talking to people who aren't like us? And so he closed his little text message this morning by saying, may you be blessed this week. May your words be Christ's words, and you'll be able to speak to someone you don't know. The second little bit of reading was about a lady in Johannesburg, South Africa. 6 million people. Her and her family moved to a town farther away of about 100,000. And so they were really worried about how they're going to find connection, they didn't know anybody. But she said within 6 months, they had a group of about 16 people they had come pretty tight with. And so how did she go about doing that? Well, she said it was easy. When somebody they had met asked them to do something, they said, yes, and. So yes, and what can we add to this? So they were asked to go camping. And so they said, yeah, and we'll bring all the stuff for s'mores. They were asked to go to a neighbor's house to play games, and they said, yes, and we'll bring some snacks. So that easy yes and. Remember, we're Baptists, we eat and meat, so food is always an open door. But they just said yes and. The other thing she's talking about is they were sitting at a Greek restaurant that had an outdoor seating area, and a couple walked by with a cute dog, and they said, hey, how about your dog is so cute? And it opened a conversation. They made it a point to meet up a week later and have dinner together, and now that relationship's been going on for a while. So if you live on mission, it's not that hard to engage new people. If we're thinking about what Christ did for us, it's not that hard to engage new people. Just a comment, hey, how you doing? Those kind of things can open doors to new conversations that you might be able to have with people about Jesus. And again, it's not about numbers. This is not a number game. Go out and make as many as you can. This is about depth of relationship. We want to build relationships that have eternal, lasting value, not just here on earth, but in eternity. So our goal is to model Christ and make disciples, so that that disciple then models Christ, then makes disciples, and that model then makes models, and makes. That's how you leave a lasting legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? I hope to make mine as a maker of disciples who make disciples. Hey, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the week.